Chapter 2232, A Gathering One. I will thank boss for this present in advance then. Qin Feng cupped his fists in respect at Yi Qing. Yi Qingtang was slightly taken aback. She couldn't help smiling at him. This kid had a backbone. By accepting this gift, he was already determined that he wouldn't be defeated by mental demons. At this point, Yi Qingtang had no idea that her conversation with Qin Feng that night would create an elite, indomitable clan. The Qin family, which should have faded into oblivion, would soon welcome a new glorious era. The next morning, to prevent those brats from encountering the other factions, she had them practice to improve and stabilize their abilities first, instead of leaving immediately. Yi Qingtang herself quietly ventured inward of the evil soul forest to another place to probe the situation. Although she did not meet any factions, Yi Qingtang discovered quite a number of demon carcasses in the forest, as well as some human corpses. It was clear that those factions had already ventured toward the core region of the evil soul forest and killed off the demons they encountered on the way. Yi Qingtang did not know exactly how many people came this time, but she estimated that with so much commotion, humans might not be the only ones here. She estimated that the other alien races might have also come forth. Taking care as she followed the traces of the fighting, Yi Qingtang slowly inched her way into the core region. She was not that interested in the Fiend Celestial's treasure. The only thing she wanted was the evil fruit, but she did not know if the evil fruit was inside the Fiend Celestial's tomb. Yi Qingtang followed those tracks and ventured into the deeper regions. The entire time, the Night Soul Beast remained firmly in Yi Qingtang's arms. As she traveled deeper, the surrounding air took on a sticky feeling. Wafts of death energy could be smelled in the air. The further she traveled, the more corpses could be seen. Bodies of demons, humans, beasts, and of various alien races were strewn all over. Those who had just lost their lives would be gradually swallowed by the dim, evil soul forest, going back into the great earth to become part of this forest. Just from the sight of this, it could be seen just how many factions were venturing into the evil soul forest. Coming here, Yi Qingtang never expected to encounter so many major factions invading the evil soul forest. It looks like there are no Night Soul Beast carcasses. Yi Qingtang scanned the area. She had seen many demon corpses, but no Night Soul Beasts at all. It was rumored that the Night Soul Beasts were the guardians of this forest and had an existence that made the outside world tremble in fear. But apart from the one in Yi Qingtang's arms, she had not seen other Night Soul Beasts. It was all very strange. Where are all your fellow beasts? The evil soul forest is being invaded by various factions. Why haven't your comrades come out to protect the forest? Yi Qingtang looked down at the Night Soul Beast in her arms. The Night Soul Beast rolled its eyes at Yi Qingtang, displaying no intention of answering. Just as Yi Qingtang was feeling bewildered, the vibration of subtle spirit energy appeared in the air somewhere in front. She followed that energy to take a look. In the deeper regions of the evil soul forest, it was all deadly quiet, but a large number of factions had gathered here. The low roars of a massive beast could be heard. A dark gold carriage was erected on its spine, with a small figure hidden inside. Chapter 2233, A Gathering, 2. Behind the massive beast was a dense army of soldiers in black armor. They were garbed in full black, revealing only pairs of cold eyes. Black Moon Palace? Yi Qingtang couldn't help being shocked by the sight of those black-armored soldiers. The Black Moon Palace was a top faction in the second domain. Even the powerful Crimson League would have to quietly stand aside to them. And the Black Moon Palace was not part of this mainland. But to think that they had appeared here, eyes scanning the area, Yi Qingtang saw that the number of factions which had gathered here had already far surpassed her expectations. Spy Cloud, Falling Water Pavilion, Void Door. The number of factions which Yi Qingtang could recognize already numbered in the dozens. Not to mention those whom she had never heard of. Is the information released by the Temple of Paragon accurate? That the Fiend Celestial's tomb is really here? An elder from the Falling Water Pavilion commented as he scanned the crowd. Since it was released by the Temple of Paragon, It must be correct. Another Void Door member replied. Yi Qingtang was taken aback. The Temple of Paragon. What did this have to do with the Temple of Paragon? In her previous life, she had never heard of the Temple of Paragon having an interest in the Evil Soul Forest. It was all very puzzling. This matter was developing in a very bizarre manner. In her previous life, the various factions did not make such a major campaign against the Evil Soul Forest. But this time was different from her previous life. Since the Temple of Paragon pointed out the location of the Fiend Celestial's tomb, it must be accurate. The Temple of Paragon has already announced that anyone who can enter the Fiend Celestial's tomb and hand over the Fiend Celestial's eye to them, they would receive a reward from the temple. All those at present were top factions from the second domain. Every single one of them were dominant forces in the mainland. But now, they had all gathered here in hopes of getting a reward from the mighty Temple of Paragon. They wanted something inside the Fiend Celestial's tomb. The Fiend Celestial's eye? How did the Temple of Paragon know that this thing exists here? Although I don't know how, since they know it, that knowledge must be accurate. The legendary Fiend Celestial's eye can see through all disguises. It can see through skin and flesh, through one's soul. What does the Temple of Paragon want with the Fiend Celestial's eye? Everyone was well aware of the high status of the Temple of Paragon in the second domain. They were already very interested in the Fiend Celestial's hidden treasure. Now, the Temple of Paragon had publicly released the location of the Fiend Celestial's tomb. It was a massive opportunity to anyone here who could obtain that Fiend Celestial's eye. Whether it was the Fiend Celestial's hidden treasure or the Fiend Celestial's eye, it was very attractive to them. If they could obtain either one of those treasures and make use of the Fiend Celestial's eye to establish good relations with the Temple of Paragon, it would be a very good thing. Everyone at present had the same thoughts. Yi Qingtang heard the crowd's discussions. She was shocked, especially after hearing the part about the Fiend Celestial's eye. She had wondered why the various factions had suddenly invaded the Evil Soul Forest so many years in advance. So, it was because of the Temple of Paragon. And that Fiend Celestial's eye. Yi Qingtang was silent. If she guessed correctly, the Temple of Paragon wanted the Fiend Celestial's eye to use it on her. In her previous life, Yi Qingtang had not been captured by the Temple of Paragon. As a result, the temple had no use for the Fiend Celestial's eye. But things were different in this life. Chapter 2234. A Gathering 3. Although Yi Qingtang had escaped, the Temple of Paragon remained suspicious of her identity. Yi Qingtang never dreamed that her appearance would change the history of the Evil Soul Forest. Looking at the massive factions gathering here, Yi Qingtang finally understood why they were suddenly investing so many resources into the Evil Soul Forest. Although Yi Qingtang had lingered in the Evil Soul Forest for long, she had yet to find the evil fruit. As such, she was 80% certain that the evil fruit was inside the Fiend Celestial's tomb. If these people all entered the Fiend Celestial's tomb, Yi Qingtang could more or less bid farewell to the evil fruit. But a treasure that required so many people to raid the tomb. Yi Qingtang believed that the difficulty level must be exceptional. The only piece of luck was that she had yet to see any signs of people from the Temple of Paragon. Otherwise, she would have to immediately flee. Just as Yi Qingtang was pondering over how to sneak around amongst the various factions, a tiny figure suddenly appeared in Yi Qingtang's line of vision. Amongst the factions, Mu Ziying's hands were bound. Trapped in the crowd, her face was filled with bruises and extremely pallid. Her puppet was in a wretched state and tied to her waist. What happened? Why is Mu Ying here? Yi Qingtang was astonished. She clearly remembered, especially making sure that they didn't venture too far from the cave before heading out herself. Why had Mu Ziying been captured? Yi Qingtang saw the faction who had caught Mu Ziying. Those are men from Rising Dragon Island? The Rising Dragon Island was an independent island in the second domain. It was not very big, but very isolated from the rest of the world. The Rising Dragon Island was extremely mysterious to the outsiders. Rumor had it that they were an organization of assassins. As long as you could pay, they could kill anyone you wanted to be killed. But the price was set by the Rising Dragon Island. Money, treasures, elixirs, sometimes even your own life. One had to satisfy the rising Dragon Island men's demands if you wished to obtain their help. Yi Qingtang felt that things were not good at all now, that Mu Ziying had fallen into their hands. If Mu Ziying was here, or Nangong Lai and the rest, what had happened? Rising Dragon Island. Don't tell me you are also on this evil soul forest mission? Shi Shangfei led his men forward. He surveyed the Rising Dragon Island men and noticed Mu Ziying. Surprise flashed across his eyes. He had seen this girl before. The Rising Dragon Island and Spy Cloud were both in the trading profession, just in different directions. Nevertheless, they had some past dealings and some form of relationship. A black-clad man who was the Rising Dragon Island's leader glanced at Mu Ziying before saying, "None of Spy Cloud's business." Shi Shangfei kept silent, but a member of a beast race who was over 3 meters in height narrowed his eyes. He sized up Mu Ziying. This girl looks somewhat familiar. Isn't she the one whom the Puppet Emperor is giving a reward to whoever finds her? Everyone reacted on hearing the words Puppet Emperor. The Puppet Emperor was a legendary practitioner in the second domain. His powers were not that remarkable, but the most fearsome thing about him was his puppet skills. Chapter 2235 Puppet Emperor 1. Legend had it that the Puppet Emperor could control an army of 1,000,000 puppets. Many royal powers had once hired the Puppet Emperor's great puppet army in their wars. One person possessing the power of 1,000,000. The ferocity of this great puppet army was truly terrifying. I thought that finding people and items is the specialty of Spy Cloud. I didn't expect Rising Dragon Island to also be good at this. The Beast Race member chuckled. The Rising Dragon Island took no prisoners. They only killed. What? Spy Cloud is also interested in this transaction? The leader of the Rising Dragon Island lifted his brows slightly. Shi Shangfei smiled. Spy Cloud and Rising Dragon Island have always kept out of each other's way. I just happened to have seen this kid earlier. I remember that there were several other teenagers with her. Did you guys? Spy Cloud and Rising Dragon Island were both businesses. It was just that they dealt in different things. Spy Cloud was good at finding treasures, while Rising Dragon Island was good at killing. The Rising Dragon Island has very high prices, the Rising Dragon Island man said coldly. Shi Shangfei understood. The Rising Dragon Island's target was this little girl. As for the others, if no one was paying, the Rising Dragon Island would not even deign to kill them. Yi Qingtang's anxious heart relaxed a little on hearing the Rising Dragon Island man's words. But she was very shocked as to how Mu Ziying was linked to the Puppet Emperor. The Puppet Emperor was giving a reward for finding Mu Ziying. What was going on? Yi Qingtang recalled everything about Mu Ziying and realized that she seldom spoke about her own family clan. And Yi Qingtang had heard of the Puppet Emperor before. He was the most powerful puppet master in the second domain, an emperor who specialized in puppets. The Puppet Emperor had a very strange character. He only interacted with others via a puppet proxy, and no one knew what he actually looked like. Yi Qingtang had just arrived at the second domain and didn't notice the Puppet Emperor's bounty. For a moment there, Yi Qingtang could not understand the reason. Nevertheless, Yi Qingtang looked at the wretched-looking Mu Ziying. She felt like a huge rock was pressing down her heart. The Rising Dragon Island was not a power which Yi Qingtang could go against. Although she was a distance away, Yi Qingtang could confirm that the Rising Dragon Island's leader was at least at the Divine Lord 4th Heaven level. It was not realistic to think of snatching something from the hands of such a powerful practitioner. But how could Yi Qingtang leave Mu Ziying behind? Yi Qingtang furrowed her brows tightly as she quietly gritted her teeth. Thereafter, her eyes landed on the night soul beast in her arms. Suddenly, a childish voice rang out from the carriage on the massive beast amongst the Black Moon Palace team. Are you guys done? The voice was soft and childish, but held a sliver of incongruous maliciousness. This period of hibernation for the night soul beasts only happens once every 1,000 years. If you guys continue wasting time talking, you will all end up as food for the night soul beasts when they wake up. The childish voice was full of ridicule, but everyone instantly quietened down. Yi Qingtang's heart quivered at the words of that Black Moon Palace child. Period of hibernation? She instinctively glanced down at the night soul beast in her arms. It was only then that she finally understood. Chapter 2236 Puppet Emperor 2 Yi Qingtang had already found it strange that over the past few days in the expansive Evil Soul Forest, the only night soul beast she had encountered was the one in her arms. The various factions' sudden invasion of the Evil Soul Forest was similarly bizarre. Although much blood had been spilled with countless bodies strewn across the ground, things were not as terrible as Yi Qingtang would have imagined. These factions had dispatched several powerful practitioners, but only a few were truly the elite. This was not at all like the expected arrangements for invading the Evil Soul Forest. Usually, a 1,000-man team stepping into the Evil Soul Forest would just be a suicide mission. But today, quite a huge number had managed to arrive at the core region of the Evil Soul Forest. They had probably received news that most of the Night Soul beasts were in hibernation and were taking advantage of this time to invade the forest. At this thought, Yi Qingtang quickly drew back a good distance with the Night Soul beast in her arms. She found a safe spot at the foot of a mountain before placing the Night Soul beast on the ground. The Night Soul beast glared at this human, whose face was full of ill intention. Its teeth ached with hatred. "Don't glare at me like that. Let's make a deal. How about that?" Yi Qingtang looked at the Night Soul beast. The Night Soul beast just rolled its eyes at Yi Qingtang. Deal? If this human hadn't discovered its weakness, it would have already swallowed her alive. Aren't the Night Soul beasts the guardians of the Evil Soul Forest? Now you've already seen that many factions are invading. I think the other Night Soul beasts are in hibernation now, so you are the only one awake, right? Yi Qingtang explained patiently. The Night Soul beast's eyes shifted. I am not interested in the Fiend Celestial's tomb, but those men have captured my friend. You also saw the situation. You want to protect the Fiend Celestial's tomb while I want to save my friend. Why don't we join forces? Yi Qingtang smiled. There is only one way to save Mu Ziying. Although risky, she had no choice but to take a bet. The Night Soul beast sized up Yi Qingtang, a sliver of panic surfacing in its eyes. No one on the outside knew about the Night Soul beast's hibernation period. But with the participation of the Temple of Paragon, the Evil Soul Forest was now in grave danger. But this mere human wished to join forces with it, and against so many powerful factions? What a joke. The Night Soul beast had little regard for Yi Qingtang's powers. But it was in her possession now, and it had no choice but to keep humble. The Night Soul beast narrowed its eyes. As long as it could temporarily escape from this human's clutches, it could immediately swallow her, and then go and kill off all those who dared to invade the Fiend Celestial's tomb. The Night Soul beast pondered for a short while before finally nodding at Yi Qingtang. The hint of a smile flashed across Yi Qingtang's eyes. The Night Soul beast quietly concealed the murderous intent in its eyes. It would kill her the moment she turned around. Just as the Night Soul beast was secretly preparing to attack, Yi Qingtang said as she continued to stare at it. "Before we join forces, it's best that we sign a contract first." The Night Soul beast, "What? Contract?" The Night Soul beast was stunned. "For you to join forces with me, you naturally can't remain in this state. But once you recover your powers, I will not be a match for you. By then, I will be helpless if you wish to just kill me off, right?" After all, she had been able to capture this Night Soul beast only by catching it unawares. By releasing it now, it would be like unleashing a tiger from its cage. Chapter 2237 Puppet Emperor 3 The Night Soul beast immediately shook its head and put on an innocent look. No way Yi Qingtang would trust it. Signing a contract is beneficial to both you and me. If you are unwilling, I will leave now with you. The Night Soul beast turned as if it did not care about Yi Qingtang's threat at all. It knew that she wanted to save someone. After all, that human girl was still in the clutches of those men. The Night Soul beast was sure that Yi Qingtang wouldn't dare to leave just like that. But before the Night Soul beast could react further, Yi Qingtang picked it up and appeared as if she was really going to leave with it. The Night Soul beast was stunned. At this moment, It suddenly recalled those men it had encountered earlier in the Evil Soul Forest. Those humans were from the same group. But after meeting it, they had scattered, not caring about whether their companions were dead or alive. Some even injured their own companions in their bid to flee, trying to make use of them to slow down the beast's pursuit. Yi Qingtang said she wanted to save her friend, but it was clear to the beast that she cared more about her own life. The Night Soul Beast was not sure about all this. Although Yi Qingtang might be willing to ditch her friend, the Night Soul Beast couldn't let these people invade the Fiend Celestial's tomb. Woo! The Night Soul Beast quickly grabbed Yi Qingtang's arm. What? Regretting it now? Yi Qingtang raised her eyebrows. The Night Soul Beast gritted its teeth. Damn this devious human. It seems that you are the one begging to sign a contract with me now, Yi Qingtang said. The Night Soul Beast gritted its teeth so hard that they nearly cracked. If not for the sake of protecting the tomb, would it sign a contract with a human? And such a weak human. In the past, it could squash a human of this level with a single foot. But now, what an insult. Yi Qingtang quietly steadied her own heart when she saw that the Night Soul Beast had taken the bait. She signed a contract with it. Even with this contract, the Night Soul Beast was too powerful, and Yi Qingtang would not be able to make it do all her bidding. At the very most, she could only ensure that it would not do anything to harm her. However, that was enough. The major factions were gradually losing patience. They only knew that the Night Soul Beasts were now in hibernation, but did not know when they would awaken. Battling Night Soul Beasts was something that no one wanted. Until now, no matter how powerful a practitioner was, no one had been a match for the Night Soul Beast. The best result was to drag one's gravely injured body back home, lucky to be alive. Let's not delay any longer. The Fiend Celestial's tomb is inside this mountain, so the entrance should be located as soon as possible. A falling water pavilion elder spoke gravely. The various powers had one common goal now. The Fiend Celestial's tomb was a major lure to them. Although everyone looked very harmonious now, the real bloodshed would occur once the Fiend Celestial's tomb was found. Now, they were just trying to leverage off each other. Everyone nodded and started a search for the tomb's entrance. After following Shi Shangfei, Peng Ji would glance at the captured Mu Xing now and then. That's the Rising Dragon Island's own business. Don't be nosy if you don't wish to die. Shi Shangfei could see what Peng Ji was thinking. Peng Ji quietly shrank back and said hurriedly, Division Head Shi, I don't have other intentions. It's just that I happen to have met her earlier. I just find it strange as to why the Rising Dragon Island would capture her. Is she really the one whom the Puppet Emperor is searching for? But I remembered that the Puppet Emperor's notice clearly stated that she was to be brought to him completely unharmed. Chapter 2238 Puppet Emperor 4 Spy Cloud also had a copy of the Puppet Emperor's notice. Peng Ji had seen it, but Spy Cloud did not accept that task. The Puppet Emperor was not the one who hired the Rising Dragon Island, Shi Shangfei said. Not the Puppet Emperor? Peng Ji was shocked. Shi Shangfei replied. Many years ago, the Puppet Emperor had a daughter, but the two of them were in conflict and she left home. Do you remember that 11 years ago, when the Puppet Emperor flew into a rage and massacred the Great June Dynasty? The Great June Dynasty was powerful in the Second Domain. Even surrounded by the various major factions, it stood its ground and had its own territory. But 11 years ago, the flourishing Great June Dynasty was in ashes within a short month. Over 300 small towns were reduced to dust, and the entire population of hundreds of thousands of citizens all died. I remember, Peng Ji nodded. The Puppet Emperor was the one who did that. Shi Shangfei stated. Peng Ji was stunned. It was the Puppet Emperor who destroyed the Great June Dynasty? The Puppet Emperor's daughter was in a romantic relationship with the Great June Dynasty's king. The Puppet Emperor objected, but his daughter ignored his wishes and married the king. But in just a few years, the Great June Dynasty's king found another woman and killed his first wife. This matter was kept very hush-hush, and not many people knew. But Spy Cloud had many ears on the ground, and that was how Shi Shangfei knew of it. Peng Ji gasped. Did the Great June Dynasty's king go mad? He dared to do that to the puppet emperor's daughter? Shi Shangfei shook his head. He had no idea of the woman's background. That was why he dared to act as such. A scornful smile tugged at the corners of Shi Shangfei's lips. This great Jun dynasty king. He dared to kill the puppet emperor's only daughter. He truly had a death wish. The puppet emperor only had that one daughter his entire life. He had damaged his reproductive abilities from the cultivation of the puppet skills, and could no longer bear more children. The death of his only daughter meant cutting off his bloodline. But luckily, in recent years, the puppet emperor learned that his daughter had given birth to a child, but it turns out the child was still very young when she was exiled from the great Jun dynasty after her mother was murdered. No one knew if she was dead or alive. If I am correct, that little girl should be the puppet emperor's long-lost granddaughter. The puppet emperor only has this one remaining descendant. Of course, he wouldn't want her harmed, but his enemies won't be so kind. They would never let go of this chance to target the puppet emperor's one weakness. Shi Shangfei narrowed his eyes. Spy Cloud didn't accept the puppet emperor's business because of other considerations. Those powers who could make an enemy of the puppet emperor were not people that Spy Cloud was willing to provoke. Peng Ji gaped, but didn't say anything. He just secretly glanced at Mu Ziying again. Mu Ziying was utterly expressionless now. Her hands were bound behind her, her face as impassive as if she was a puppet herself. Her lids were slightly lowered, not crying, not making a fuss. Those Rising Dragon Island men who were guarding over her found this quite strange. Their leaders said that they had let her companions go because they were not worth killing. That was just bullshit. Those brats were able to escape with their lives only because this girl had threatened them with her own life. She said that if they dared to hurt any one of them, she would commit suicide by biting her own tongue. That was the only reason why those brats were still alive. If you are obedient, we won't make things difficult for you. But if you disobey, we can turn back any time and skin those friends of yours. The black-clad leader of the Rising Dragon Island warned her in a chilly voice. Mu Ziying lifted her eyes, her blood-stained little face completely devoid of expression. Those pitch-black eyes could make one's hair stand on end. Chapter 2239. Acting is a Skill 1. The news released by the Temple of Paragon gave the location of the Fiend Celestial's tomb, but did not specify where the entrance was. To locate the entrance as soon as possible, the various factions split up to comb through the entire mountain. Several figures quietly snuck over as the factions were searching for the entrance. Are you sure you saw them head this way? Yin Chun furrowed his brows slightly, his handsome face covered with bruises of varying sizes. I'm sure. Nangong Lai had an 8 trigrams plate in his hand with a strand of hair on it. Lei Yin, Jing Zhe, and Qin Feng were also present. The Rising Dragon Island had let them go because of Mu Ziying's threat, but they could not just stand by and let her get kidnapped. Are we really not going to tell Boss about this first? Lei Yin was hesitant. Little senior sister was captured. Don't you know what kind of people the Rising Dragon Island are? If we delay, little senior sister might not be able to make it back alive, Nangong Lai said. They were all very anxious after Mu Ziying was captured. After a discussion, they decided to go looking for her. After all, the Rising Dragon Island was notorious and about their boss powers. To be honest, every single one of them was even more powerful than Boss. Those teenagers did not dare to get too close. They followed the faction from a safe distance. There were many people from the various factions, and the mountain was not that big. Before long, someone spread the news that they had found the entrance to the Fiend Celestial's tomb. All the factions swarmed toward the location. It was a massive stone door hidden in the middle of the mountain. The door was covered in moss and other plants. It would have been easy to overlook it if one was not careful. I will open the door. The eyes of the leader of the beast race flashed. Charging forward, he used his huge body to ram against the door. But the door did not even budge. As hard as the beast race leader tried, he was unable to move at all. Seeing this, the other factions all stepped forward to try and open the door. But no matter how many people tried and how much effort they put in, the door remained unmoving. It's not that easy to open the door to the Fiend Celestial's tomb. The child from Black Moon Palace spoke up. Everyone immediately stopped. A small figure slowly walked out of the carriage on the massive beast. It was a child who looked about 5 to 6 years old. His chubby face looked pink and tender, but his eyes were full of maliciousness. It's him? The Black Moon Palace has really gone all out this time. They even sent the demon child. Previously, the crowd had their doubts about the identity of the person inside the carriage. But now, everyone's faces grew solemn at the sight of the child. The Black Moon Palace had a very miraculous skill. One had to start practicing it when one was still a very young child. The skill would stabilize after the child grew a little older, and he would never age from then on, but maintain in a childlike form. Those who looked very young inside the Black Moon Palace were actually very powerful. This demon child in front of them was one of the 4 biggest powers of the Black Moon Palace. It was rumored that this demon child had already reached the Divine Lord's 7th heaven level. After the Divine Lord stage, the difference between each heaven level was very wide as the difference between 2 major stages. The various factions had sent their men here because of the Temple of Paragon's edict, plus they were on the same mainland as the Temple of Paragon, so they had all exercised restraint. Chapter 2240. Acting is a skill, too. As such, they did not send forth their top practitioners, so most of them here were Divine Lord's 6th heaven level and below. It could be said that this demon child was the most powerful amongst them. Everyone knew that this meant the Black Moon Palace was exceptionally determined to get the treasure inside the Fiend Celestial's tomb. It was not hard to ascertain the Black Moon Palace's intentions. They quietly cursed in their hearts. But for now, it wouldn't be any major issue if this demon child could open the Fiend Celestial's tomb door. The demon child narrowed his eyes as he observed the stone door, which had been sealed for a long time. A dark red mist swirled around him. Suddenly, an intense, menacing aura surged out of his body. Ha! He struck his palm straight against the Fiend Celestial's tomb door. A beam of red light flashed on the door the moment the palm landed. Powerful energy was reflected from the surface of the door. The demon child's eyes shifted before immediately taking one step back, diverting the reflected energy away. Boom! A thunderous boom rang out. The energy diverted away by the demon child had completely flattened everything in that direction. This door is strange. The demon child narrowed his eyes. We cannot use brute force on this door, otherwise it will just reflect the energy back at you. The demon child rubbed his palm, which had gone numb. A streak of blood had appeared at the corner of his lips. To think that even the demon child was unable to open the Fiend Celestial's tomb door. This was something completely unexpected by the crowd at present. After all, the Fiend Celestial's tomb was there in front of their eyes, but they didn't even have any idea how to enter. For a moment there, everyone sank into a deep silence. If we cannot open this door, let us just destroy this entire mountain. The Fiend Celestial's tomb will be exposed then, an elder suggested. You can try if you dare. The demon child smirked as he turned to return to his carriage. The elder's face stiffened, but he didn't do anything. Even a simple door possessed the power to reflect energy. If they tried to destroy this mountain, who knew what kind of consequences there would be? The Fiend Celestial might be dead, but the lingering remnants of his divine consciousness were not something they could fend against. Don't tell me only an Emperor-level practitioner can open it. Someone guessed. Emperor-level practitioner. Even an Emperor-level practitioner would probably be unable to open this door, the demon child stated in a cold voice. Everyone was stunned. The Temple of Paragon knew of the Fiend Celestial's tomb location a long time ago, and there is something they need inside. Can you guess why they didn't come forth to take it themselves? Why did they only just release news of this to let us fight over it? The demon child narrowed its eyes. It was probably because even the Temple of Paragon didn't know how to open this door. But if even the Temple of Paragon is unable to open this door, what can the rest of us do? The people here were well aware of the wide disparity between them and the Temple of Paragon. If even the Temple of Paragon could not enter the Fiend Celestial's tomb, how could the rest of them hope to do so? Regardless, we have to try. Since you guys don't want to, then let us destroy this mountain. The people from Falling Water Pavilion leaped into the air. Fools! The demon child smirked as he leaned back lazily in his carriage. Everyone quietened down to see how those Falling Water Pavilion people would try to flatten this mountain. Just as they were prepared to attack, an ethereal voice rang out. This is the first time I have seen people so eager to die. Chapter 2241. Acting is a skill. 3. Everyone was shocked by the sudden voice. They instinctively turned toward the source, only to see a massive black figure had appeared somewhere at the mountain peak. The figure was pitch black. The surrounding plants were not at all impacted as it passed. A strange aura spread across the entire mountain. Seeing the ominous figure, the hairs on Peng Ji stood on in the moment he felt that aura. No one else at present knew that aura better than him. This was the aura which he and his spy cloud team had encountered not long ago, and he was the only one left alive. Night Soul Beast. It's that Night Soul Beast. Peng Ji cried out in terror. Everyone's expressions immediately shifted. Night Soul Beast? Aren't the Night Soul Beasts in hibernation? Why did one appear here? But after that black mass gradually descended the mountain and landed before everyone's eyes, they all instinctively held their breaths. Wasn't this black mass so colossal that it looked like it could swallow this entire mountain, the legendary, fearsome Night Soul Beast? At that moment, everyone's faces were extremely grim. This Night Soul Beast was bigger than all the ones that they had heard of in the legends. Everyone went on high alert. They had all heard stories of how vicious the Night Soul Beast was. They had only dared to invade the evil Soul Forest this time because the Night Soul Beasts were supposed to be in hibernation. But someone is riding on the back of the Night Soul Beast. A person suddenly spied a figure on the back of the Night Soul Beast. A figure dressed in a black robe could be clearly seen standing on the back of the Night Soul Beast. How was that possible? Everyone was stunned. The Night Soul Beast were guardians of the evil Soul Forest. They were born from the remnants of the divine consciousness of the Fiend Celestial, as well as the resentment from millions of perished souls. Its goal was to kill every single living creature who stepped into the evil Soul Forest. But now, a human-looking fellow was standing on top of the Night Soul Beast's back. What was going on? Everyone was bewildered. More than remnants of fear arose in the hearts of the crowd, and that formless fear morphed into slivers of energy, entering the Night Soul Beast's body. What a marvelous taste! The Night Soul Beast savored this familiar taste of fear. Nourished by it, its power continued to grow. Enchanting stood on the back of the Night Soul Beast, garbed in a black robe with her face covered by a mask. She knew very well that the Night Soul Beast beneath her feet was continuously absorbing the fear and unease radiating from the various factions. The demon child was taken aback by the sight of the Night Soul Beast and Enchanting, who didn't know that the Night Soul Beast was a ferocious being that submitted to no one. But controlled by this black-robed person, it didn't immediately charge forward to attack them. That massive beast was now obediently beneath the feet of that black-robed person, as if it was following her instructions. In this world, there was someone who was able to tame and control a Night Soul Beast. Furthermore, such a massive one. As the Night Soul Beast was too powerful, the demon child was unable to sense just how high the black-robed person's level was. Nevertheless, no one in this world could control a Night Soul Beast. Just who was this black-robed person? The demon child and the leaders of other factions exchanged discreet looks. It was clear that the sudden appearance of this black-robed person was now the key focus of everyone's attention. Chapter 2242. Fiend Celestial's Will 1. Demon Child, in your opinion, how powerful is this Night Soul Beast? An elder from the Falling Water Pavilion asked. The demon child narrowed his eyes. Above me, everyone froze at these words. This Night Soul Beast was even more powerful than the demon child, but since this Night Soul Beast did not go into hibernation, its power would be greatly reduced. If we attack in unison, it should not be too difficult to defeat it. But the demon child's eyes hardened as they landed on Yi Qingtang. The person standing on top of that night soul beast is the key. One night soul beast. Together, they had the advantage of numbers and could defeat it. But the demon child was worried about this black-robed person who could command a night soul beast. A person who could control a night soul beast was definitely no random, ordinary passerby. Her appearance was no accident. Don't tell me she is the protector of this evil soul forest. An elder from the Falling Water Pavilion asked. The fiend celestial had died, but the remnants of his divine consciousness remained. Those followers of the fiend celestial might be still alive, but hidden inside the evil soul forest. It was just that no one had ever gone near the fiend celestial's tomb, and so those protectors never appeared. I don't know. The demon child shook his head. Are you able to sense her level? The demon child shook his head again. For a moment, the various factions had no idea what to do. May I know who you are? The elder from Falling Water Pavilion stepped forward and asked Yi Qingtang. My name has already been long forgotten by mortals. Of what use is there in telling you? Yi Qingtang affected a profound manner. You all wish to enter the fiend celestial's tomb. It's not impossible. I have waited here for tens of thousands of years, waiting for someone who can inherit the will of the fiend celestial. What? Everyone was dumbstruck by Yi Qingtang's words. Inherit the will of the fiend celestial? What did she mean by that? Yi Qingtang quietly took a deep breath as she observed their faces. Luckily, during this period in her previous life, people in the second domain did not know much about the evil soul forest. If the Temple of Paragon hadn't told them about the location of the fiend celestial's tomb, it would take another 200 to 300 years before they would uncover the truth behind the evil soul forest. And this ignorance was perfect for Yi Qingtang's duplicity. You came here, but you did not know? Yi Qingtang pretended to be dubious. The crowd became even more confused by Yi Qingtang's question. Mighty One, please enlighten us. The crowd was very respectful toward this black-robed figure. They could not tell this person's power level, but knew that she was not your usual practitioner if she was able to control a night soul beast. Before they could find out more about Yi Qingtang, it was better to be respectful. Who knew where this person came from? Since she was able to control the night soul beast, she might even be able to summon those who were still in hibernation. By then, they would all die in this evil soul forest. Never mind. It is still fate that you have all come here. Yi Qingtang sighed before continuing in a grave voice. The fiend celestial may have perished, but its divine consciousness has remained in this tomb. By order of the fiend celestial, I have waited all this time for a person who is fated to find the fiend celestial's tomb. All that is needed is for him to enter the fiend celestial's tomb and pass the fiend celestial's test. Once that is achieved, he can then obtain the treasures that were left behind, as well as the will of the fiend celestial. All sorts of expressions crossed the faces of the crowd. Some were shocked, some were puzzled, some were full of suspicion. Inherit the fiend celestial's will? No one had ever heard of such a thing. Chapter 2243. Fiend Celestial's Will 2. The leaders of the factions exchanged dubious looks. They did not completely believe in the identity of this black-robed person. No one had ever heard of this black-robed person in the Evil Soul Forest, but she had suddenly appeared today. The major factions were no fools and naturally would not believe everything she said just like that. But no one revealed any of their doubts. Elder Fong, do you think that person is serious? In response, Elder Fong from Falling Water Pavilion said, for the moment, we cannot confirm if she is serious. But since she said that she is here waiting for the fated person, let us see how things develop first. For now, it was true that they were unable to open the door to the Fiend Celestial's tomb. If this black-robed person was serious, then she would know how to open it. As for the rest of her claims, there was no way they would just believe everything she said. The leaders of the various factions all had this line of thinking. But as for the matter concerning the inheritance of the Fiend Celestial's will, everyone had their own guesses and theories. but they would lay low for now and see if this black-robed person had any tricks up her sleeve. I wonder how it is possible to determine who the fated person is. The demon child's voice rang out from the carriage. His tone was calm with hints of probing. This person will be personally chosen by the Fiend Celestial's will, Yi Qingtang replied steadily. How will he be chosen? The crowd was very curious. Yi Qingtang was in no hurry. She knew that these people were still dubious about her words, but as long as they wanted to enter the Fiend Celestial's tomb, she was confident in hoodwinking them. The Fiend Celestials will mainly exist in the tomb. You just need to enter it. The suitable person will naturally be chosen. I am only the guide. Yi Qingtang spoke in a mild tone. Everyone couldn't help being stunned by Yi Qingtang's words. Since you're the guide, I wonder if you can guide us in the tomb? The demon child asked. The current obstacle was that they were unable to open that stone door. This question was a test of this black-robed person's identity. Of course, Yi Qingtang didn't hesitate. She urged the night soul beast toward the stone door. The crowd looked at Yi Qingtang with complicated expressions. With narrowed eyes, the demon child carefully analyzed Yi Qingtang's every move. The faction leaders quietly all went on high alert. This black-robed person's appearance was too bizarre. They had never heard of her claims, and so they did not dare to believe her declaration. Yi Qingtang could clearly feel countless pairs of eyes fixed upon her back. Leaping off the night soul beast's back, she stood in front of the stone door. The Fiend Celestial's tomb entrance was very strange. In her previous life, people took 50 years after the discovery of the tomb to finally open the door, which had been sealed for eons. In her previous life, this stone door had stumped the Second Domain factions for a full 50 years. Yi Qingtang looked at the stone door before her, recalling her memories from her previous life. Quietly, she took a deep breath and shot a look at the Night Soul Beast. The Night Soul Beast felt very frustrated, but had no choice but to comply. It was the only Night Soul Beast who was awake. On its own, it could not defeat the wild ambitions of the major factions. As such, it had no choice but to cooperate with Yi Qingtang. Using its body to cover what it was doing, the Night Soul Beast secretly reached out one feeler. Chapter 2244 Fiend Celestial's Will 3. That feeler quietly wrapped around Yi Qingtang's finger. Together, they drew a string of bizarre runes on the stone door. The runes left no mark on the door at all. The crowd wanted to peep at the method to open the door, but their attempts were blocked by the mammoth body of the Night Soul Beast. Lei Yin and the rest were hidden in a dark corner and had observed the entire proceedings. That black-robed person. Don't tell me she's the protector of the evil soul forest? Inheritance of the Fiend Celestial's will. Is there such a thing? Yin Shun frowned slightly. That fellow is able to control the Night Soul Beast. Unbelievable. But aren't we supposed to find a way to rescue little senior sister now? Nangong Lai prompted. It's not the right time to make our move now. Let's wait and see first, Yin Shun replied. The teenagers nodded. Yin Shun looked at Qin Feng. Qin Feng, do you think that black-robed person is really able to open the stone door? Qin Feng kept quiet for a moment before nodding slightly. If she cannot do it, it would have been suicide for her to appear. Never expected there to be so much action inside the evil soul forest. I wonder where boss is. If he can't find us, he'll probably be very anxious. Jingze gave a small smile. Their failure to protect Mu Ziying was a thorn in their hearts. How could they bear to face Yi Qing? They had to find a chance to rescue Mu Ziying first. Just as the teenagers were discussing in a low voice, a dark red light suddenly lit up behind the Night Soul Beast. The red light shot into the sky, a profound aura suddenly spreading across the entire mountain. The expressions of the various factions changed. The massive Night Soul Beast slowly turned around, with the black-robed Yi Qingtang once again standing on its back. In the next instance, the stone door once again appeared in the crowd's line of sight, and everyone was quietly stunned by that sight. The sealed stone door had been opened. The crowd had been full of suspicion about the black-robed person, but now they were utterly dumbstruck. To think she managed to open the door to the Fiend Celestial's tomb. All sorts of emotions and thoughts surged through the various factions. Faced with this situation, their doubts about this black-robed person had lessened considerably. They all knew how big of an obstacle that stone door was. Even the demon child was unable to do anything about that stone door. And since the Temple of Paragon didn't prompt them about how to open the door when it released its news, everyone had been completely despondent. Quite a number of people even wanted to just destroy the entire mountain. But in the blink of an eye, that black-robed person easily opened that stone door. Although they could not be sure if everything the black-robed person said was true, everyone was certain about one point. This black-robed person was closely interlinked with the Evil Soul Forest and the Fiend Celestial. She might really be the protector of this Evil Soul Forest. Otherwise, how did she manage to control the Night Soul Beast? And not only that, she opened the stone door so easily. Everyone was looking at Yi Qingtang with more caution now. Yi Qingtang observed the reactions of everyone, but she appeared impassive. In reality, after the Second Domain factions spent all that time on the Fiend Celestial's tomb in her previous life, after it was opened, details of this tomb had spread across the world and became common knowledge. Chapter 2245, Tomb 1. By the time Yi Qingtang arrived at the Second Domain in her previous lifetime, the Fiend Celestial tomb had already been open for decades. It wasn't a secretive affair at all. Almost everyone in the mainland knew about it and would talk about it. Yi Qingtang had been hiding around many places, so she naturally heard the discussions about the tomb. The Fiend Celestial tomb could never be opened using external forces. Even if an Emperor-level person tried to forcibly open it, there would be a counter-effect. If anyone tried to forcibly open the tomb, just like the muscular man from the Falling Water Pavilion, there would only be one outcome, and that was death. The only way to open the Fiend Celestial tomb was for the Night Soul Beast to personally open it. The Night Soul Beast was the protector of the Evil Soul Forest and also the Fiend Celestial tomb. However, only Yi Qingtang knew about it. The Night Soul Beast was puzzled. How did these humans even figure out how to open the tomb? The Fiend Celestial tomb is open. Several people wanted to charge into the tomb when it opened up. Yi Qingtang didn't say anything. A few groups took their man and charged into the tomb in the blink of an eye, and Yi Qingtang didn't stop them. They desperately wanted to lay their hands on the Fiend Celestial treasures. Moreover, they didn't trust Yi Qingtang, and so they moved quickly. There were only a few forces who didn't act on it. The Black Moon Palace, Falling Water Pavilion, Rising Dragon Island, and Spy Cloud's forces didn't do anything. They merely exchanged glances and remained still. It seemed that they were waiting for something. Just a moment later, piercing shrieks echoed in the dark tomb. The strong smell of blood started permeating through everyone's nostrils. When the forces standing outside the tomb heard the sounds, they remained expressionless. It was as if they had already predicted the outcome. The next moment, bloody figures escaped out of the tomb. They seemed to have used their last bit of energy to climb out of the tomb rather than escape. Their lower bodies were gruesome. The bones in their legs were gone, leaving only strips of flesh that continued bleeding. "Jerk! How dare you do this to us?" The man used his last bit of energy to climb out of the tomb. His eyes were bleeding, a part of his chin missing, and with a huge slit across his stomach as his organs spilled out. Yi Qingtang looked at the resentful man calmly. The man could hardly breathe, and when he finally took his last breath, the shrieks in the tomb started becoming softer until it became silent once again. Everyone knew that it wasn't because they had escaped to a safe space. It was most likely because they already died. The first batch of forces to enter the tomb wasn't too large. There were only 1,800 of them combined. These 1,800 people were defeated in an instant. The tomb was dangerous. Although the doors were wide open, not everyone could guarantee they would come out alive once they entered. Chapter 2246, Tomb 2. Lei Yin and the others who were in hiding felt chills run down their spines at the sight of those wretched dead bodies around the tomb entrance. No one knew what had happened in the tomb just now. Elder Feng and the other faction leaders saw that all was calm in the interior of the tomb, and the expressions on their faces were grim. They had already guessed that it would not be so easy to enter the Fiend Celestial's tomb, and so hadn't rushed to enter and perish without a second glance. Ambition was a good thing, but one also had to have brains. Only then could you preserve your own life. And earlier, they already noticed that Yi Qingtang did not make any move to enter, even though the stone door had been opened. If Yi Qingtang's words were true, and she was really the guide to the person who would inherit the Fiend Celestial's will, she would naturally have led the Chosen One in. But she didn't make any move, and those fools just rushed in and ended up losing their lives. I wonder what are the rules of this tomb? Mighty One, please enlighten us, Elder Feng asked politely. As she had opened the stone door, he believed in her words to a certain extent. Of course, Yi Qingtang spoke mildly. She had been waiting for them to take the initiative to ask. As the Fiend Celestial's tomb guide, Yi Qingtang was in no hurry to disclose everything to everyone. So she had waited. Those who are not fated will meet certain death if they force their way in. But since one of you is the fated one, I will lead you all inside. However, Yi Qingtang's tone suddenly turned cold. You must heed my instructions inside the tomb. Otherwise, if you trigger any trap, I will not help you. Yi Qingtang's words were chilly and sounded like a warning, but everyone relaxed a little at her words. After all, if Yi Qingtang had immediately told them that everything would be fine, they would never trust her. Instead, they would suspect that Yi Qingtang had ulterior motives. But of course, Elder Feng and the rest nodded. Without another word, Yi Qingtang leaped off the back of the Night Soul Beast and stood in front of the entrance. As she lifted her hand, right in front of their eyes, the massive Night Soul Beast shrank until it was about the size of a tiger. But the eyes of that Night Soul Beast remained sharp and harsh as they swept across the crowd. Follow me. Yi Qingtang infused spirit energy into her voice so that everyone could hear her clearly. With that, the factions followed behind her. The demon child also alighted from his carriage. Brushing by Elder Feng and the rest, he communicated through spirit energy. After entering the tomb, we must monitor this person's movements closely. The moment something looks off, we must immediately coordinate to take her down. Elder Feng and the rest quietly communicated their assent. They needed to make use of Yi Qingtang's understanding of this tomb to lead them inside, but they also had to be on their guard against her. Only fools would completely believe Yi Qingtang's earlier word without thinking more about it. This person was taking the initiative to lead them inside the tomb. But why? For the moment, no one knew. Lei Yin and his group saw that most of the factions had already entered the tomb, and they immediately followed behind. It was pitch black inside. A rotting smell permeated the air, which had been trapped inside this closed-off space for tens of thousands of years. That rotting stench mixed with the smell of fresh blood entered the bodies of the people as they breathed. Chapter 2247, Tomb 3. After being surrounded in the darkness for a fair amount of time, it no longer affected the sight of martial art practitioners. Darkness was no obstacle to them, as they could still see in the dark. This was the thinking of the crowd as they stepped into the Fiend Celestial's tomb. But after they truly stepped in, they realized that they could not see through the darkness. The weakest man in that group was still at least a Divine Lord First Heaven level, while the most powerful was already at the 8th Heaven level. To them, darkness was nothing to be worried about. But now they could not even see their own hands stretched out in front of them. A cold breeze blew by their ears. It was a chilly draft which originated from the deeper recesses of the tomb. It brought with it a rotting stench, which intermingled with the smell of fresh blood. Lights! Yi Qingtang's voice rang out from the front. The crowd finally snapped out of their trance, and each brought out their various illumination instruments. Luckily, I was well prepared and specially brought an illuminating lamp. Nangong Lai murmured softly as he reached into his space ring. You have an illuminating lamp? Good job. Lei Yin patted Nangong Lai on the shoulder. Illuminating lamps were one of the more superior illumination instruments. The Lei Tang family had several and used them in their underground practice arena. The palm-sized lamp could light up a radius spanning several miles. Once lit, it could transform the surrounding darkness into an area as bright as day. Nangong Lai chuckled as he took out the illuminating lamp. But after he lit it, the lamp exuded a weak brightness that was only enough to light up a 1-meter radius around him. And the glow was murky, even more dismal than the weak flickering of a candle's flame. Lei Yin shot Nangong Lai a strange look. Is this a fake? Wasn't this an illuminating lamp? Nangong Lai was also puzzled. This was a genuine article, but why was the light so weak? Qin Feng and the group thought that they would be able to see the path clearly by that single illuminating lamp. But now, they all started to take out their own illumination devices. But when they lit their own instruments, the results were even dimmer than that illuminating lamp. They could only light up the upper half of their bodies. The same situation happened to everyone in the tomb. All sorts of illumination devices were taken out, but could only produce a weak glow, which looked like it was being swallowed by the darkness in the pitch-black tomb. This tomb is rather strange. I already found it strange when it was already so dark the moment we stepped inside. Light from the outside is unable to penetrate into this tomb at all. One of the men turned to look at the entrance. The doorway leading to the outside Evil Soul Forest was still bright, but it was pitch black on the inside. That stone door was like a portal between two entirely separate worlds. Everyone, please stop and keep quiet. Yi Qingtang's voice rang out again. A ball of light was floating at the front where she was standing. That ball of light was more dazzling than any of the illuminating devices held by the others. What's that? The crowd stared curiously at the ball of light floating above Yi Qingtang's head. Instead of responding, Yi Qingtang only continued forward. She had already known that she would be coming to the Evil Soul Forest and so made the necessary preparations. In her previous life, quite a bit of information regarding the Fiend Celestial's tomb had been circulated around. She didn't plan to enter the tomb, but was worried that other places in the Evil Soul Forest might have the same situation, so she had specially gone to buy Spirit Pearl. Chapter 2248, Matrix Path 1. Within the Fiend Celestial's tomb, the darkness could swallow all light. Even the various illumination devices could not dispel the darkness and could only maintain a weak glow. The Spirit Pearl was an exceptional illumination instrument and was something that could make use of spirit energy. And only by infusing it with spirit energy could this device light up and not be completely engulfed by the darkness. This was derived from the experiences of the people in her previous life. It must be said that Yi Qingtang had a very good memory. She could recall everything that she had heard of in her previous life. When the crowd saw the light on top of Yi Qingtang's head, the unease in their hearts decreasing quite a bit. It was rather strange. Those who had first barged into the tomb had all died inside. But after traveling for several meters, they had yet to see even a single corpse. Lit by the weak glow from the lights, they could not see the path beneath their feet. They could only feel that the ground felt a bit sticky. It was the sticky feeling of fresh blood that had not yet fully dried. All the while the demon child remained behind Yi Qingtang, and so he could see everything around him. The entranceway to the tomb was far wider than they imagined. They could not see the ends of either side. The demon child's eyes eventually landed on Yi Qingtang. There was an intense guardedness and probing in those eyes. Mighty One, I wonder what conditions are there for one to inherit the will of the Fiend Celestial. The demon child suddenly stepped forward, an innocent smile on his face. That pure, guileless smile bloomed on his tender face, no different from a normal child. It was a smile that would make you let down your guard. Yi Qingtang quietly sized up the demon child. In her heart, she did not dare to treat him as a normal child at all. After all, who didn't know that the children from Black Moon Palace were all bloodthirsty killers? But they were very adept at making use of their appearance when necessary to trick others. Yi Qingtang knew that Demon Child was just trying to probe her. The more one said, the more mistakes one might make. Likewise, the reverse was also true. So she just ignored the Demon Child and continued forward with the Night Soul Beast. The Demon Child narrowed his eyes and stopped smiling. After some time, Yi Qingtang suddenly halted. Puzzled, the group looked toward the area in front of Yi Qingtang, only to see multiple stone statues erected on the path. Those statues had very strange shapes. Most were heinous-looking demons holding tridents or long blades. They had malicious expressions, with long tongues sticking out of their jaws. There were numerous statues densely packed on both sides of the path. Damn, what are those? The hairs on Lei Yin stood on end at the sight of those evil demon statues. Or are those humans? Jingze muttered in a low voice after realizing something. The crowd followed Jingze's line of sight. Everyone broke out in cold sweat. Bloodied corpses were hung up on the second row of evil demon statues. Those bodies looked rather familiar. Weren't they the first batch of people who had rushed in? They had just been alive not long ago, but were now trapped in all sorts of eerie, twisted positions on the evil demon statues. In fact, their bodies looked like they had been smashed by something. Their hands and legs twisted in obscene angles. Not only that, the weapons in the hands of those evil demons had penetrated their hearts, abdomens, and other areas. Chapter 2249 Massacre. Back then, Jian Wushuang's understanding of the sword doctrine had been mediocre and straightforward. The sword skills he had cast were extremely simple. After he cultivated within the sword doctrine trial tower for 1,000 years, his understanding of sword skills was completely different. There was more to sword skills than the techniques. The techniques were fixed and couldn't be changed. However, a human could be flexible. Those who knew how to use a sword could make a simple slash or jab even more precise and deadly compared to those ordinary experts who cast incredible sword skills. Those who did not know how to use a sword would have numerous weaknesses even if they had incredible sword skills. They might not even be able to beat someone who used simple sword skills. Jian Wushuang, who had cultivated within the Sword Doctrine Trail Tower, had been that way initially. But now he was the opposite. In the space, Jian Wushuang stopped holding back as he used all the sword skills he had. His casual slash, flick, cut, thrust. Each move was used perfectly and smoothly. This was proof he had finally made the cut to be considered an expert in the sword doctrine. This was the difference between initial success in sword doctrine compared to an amateur. With the help of his sword skills, Jian Wushuang could fend off the attacks from more than 20 experts in the divine demon realm easily. He could even counterattack frequently while fending off the attacks targeted at him. He thrust out his sword. Before the sword skill reached the target, a terrifying soul attack would reach it first. Jian Wushuang's soul attack had become even more powerful during the 24,000 years. He was in slumber as his soul power had experienced a great increase during this time. Now, a top-tier Stage 3 Great Emperor would not be able to handle his soul attack when he cast it together with the Soul-Swallowing Pearl and the 3 Divine Light secret skill. Even experts in the divine demon realm would experience a short blank in their consciousness when Jian Wushuang's soul attacks land on them. This short blank was enough for Jian Wushuang to cast his sword skills without giving his opponents a chance to defend themselves from the attacks. Fifth, Jian Wushuang's sword light flickered again as another head was detached from its body. Within moments, another sword light, which looked like fresh blood, penetrated the head of another expert in the divine demon realm. This expert died with both of his eyes wide open, unable to believe how he had died at the hands of Jian Wushuang. The sixth, Jian Wushuang continued the massacre with a cold attitude. A blurry light shrouded 2 other experts in the divine demon realm. Both of these experts only had ordinary fighting powers. Hence, both experienced a short blank in their consciousness, even though Jian Wushuang had targeted both of them with a single soul attack. Puffed, puffed. The blade entered their bodies, and the dead bodies fell towards the ground below. The eighth, Jian Wushuang said casually, The 20 experts in the Divine Demon realm initially had not taken Jian Wushuang seriously at all, as they had thought he was not a threat. They had severely underestimated Jian Wushuang. Once the battle began, Jian Wushuang's fighting power made the shiver in fear. Too fast. His speed is too fast, and we cannot catch up to him. He is not only enlightened to the space-time rules of order, he also excels in using this power. His sword skills are very terrifying. He must have made the cut to become an amateur in sword doctrine. Amateur? What a joke. He must have reached initial success. Furthermore, his soul attack is far too powerful. We cannot stop it. Terrifying shrieks were heard across the battlefield. These experts in the Divine Demon realm were completely shocked by Jian Wushuang's fighting power. His understanding and his use of space-time rules of order to reach incredible speed was amazing. His sophisticated sword skills were at the level of initial success in the sword doctrine. There was also the horrifying and unstoppable soul attack. The combination of these three made Jian Wushuang their worst nightmare. Massacre. Ever since the battle started, it had been a one-sided massacre. Even though there were more than 20 experts in the Divine Demon realm, they didn't work together, hence they were not a threat to Jian Wushuang at all. Jian Wushuang could continue the massacre without worrying. No one could stop his soul attack. No one could be compared to his sword skills. Initial success stage in sword doctrine. Far too few experts in the Divine Demon realm could reach this stage even back in the absolute beginning divine world. Even if someone did, their fighting power would be restricted as they would be under the restrictions of heaven and earth. However, Jian Wushuang was completely unaffected by the restrictions of heaven and earth. He could use every single scrap of his fighting power to the fullest. Within moments, 11 out of the 20 experts in the Divine Demon realm had been killed by Jian Wushuang. That was about half of the total number. Too terrifying. The Sword Emperor is too terrifying. Who said we only needed to beware of Emperor Bai? What is going on with the Sword Emperor? Emperor Bai? He is definitely not as terrifying as the Sword Emperor. We were tricked. We were all tricked. The strongest man within the Sanctuary Alliance is not Emperor Bai, but the Sword Emperor. Run. Hurry up, escape. Hysterical roars from these experts were here on the battlefield. The remaining 10 experts in the Divine Demon realm were trembling in fear. They lost the courage to battle Jian Wushuang as they started to run away. Within moments, in under 2 breaths, about half of the experts there had been killed. If Jian Wushuang were to kill the remaining experts, he would do so within the time of a single breath. There was no way they could beat Jian Wushuang. If they continued to fight, they would definitely die. They knew this well, hence, the experts all started to run away. As for Lord Jiao, even though the reward of a divine demon nirvana elixir was of very high value, it could only entice these experts to fight, not risk their lives. If they stayed and fought, they would definitely die. No one would die for Lord Jiao. Even Lord Jiao's subordinate, Chu He, escaped without hesitation. Within moments, 11 of the experts had died, while the remaining escaped out of sight. Jian Wushuang stood there coldly, even after killing 11 experts in the Divine Demon realm. It was as though he was killing 11 insignificant people. Chapter 2250, Matrix Path 3. The sight of those eyes made their spines tingle. Lei Yan's legs went soft. Luckily, Qin Feng was fast and immediately grabbed his shoulder. Wiping the sweat from his forehead, he nodded. They were a crowd of nearly 10,000 people, but there was barely any noise. Yi Qingtang was right at the front. She moved gracefully and steadily. The demon child did not fully believe in Yi Qingtang's words. So not only did he not make any noise, he only stepped exactly where Yi Qingtang stepped previously, not differing even an inch. After traveling for several meters, nothing strange happened. But at this moment, an ominous wind suddenly appeared from the deeper regions of the tomb. Suddenly, a vast number of gray-white, ghoulish figures flowed onto the Matrix path. The sudden appearance of those ghouls shocked everyone. Forgetting Yi King Tang's warning, someone instinctively screamed. In the next second, all the evil demon statues came to life. The person who screamed finally realized things were not right. Under the shadow of death, he charged through the crowd and fled to the back, trying to flee from this matrix path to escape this tomb. His heavy footsteps seemed to startle all the evil demons. The statues on both sides immediately moved and dashed toward the man. Squish! A weird noise rang out. Within mere seconds, a stone trident pierced right through the person's body, pinning the person to the ground. That person managed to flee a good distance and had just reached Lei Yin and his group. But in the next second, he was pinned to the ground by that trident. Lei Yin and the rest widened their eyes in shock. That person was still alive. His eyes were wide with fear, and he reached out. Save me. I still want to. Before he could complete his sentence, that person's face stiffened. His legs were being lifted and twisted. Sounds of bones cracking could be heard. It was like an invisible force had gripped this person's limbs. His legs were twisted into a pretzel shape, while his arms were pulled backward and then tied in a dead knot. Shattered bone pierced through his flesh, fresh blood spraying all over the faces of Lei Yin and his group. Watching this gory scene up close, Lei Yin couldn't help want to scream. Luckily, he had eaten the mute elixir. Otherwise, good grief, Lei Yin didn't even dare to think about it. The tortured man was on his dying breath. The trident flew back into the hands of one of the evil demons, bringing the man with it. Licking the bloodied man, the evil demon's long tongue went all over the gruesome body before calm finally descended. It was silent again, and all the evil demons went back to their original positions. Now, everyone finally understood why those first batch of men who had rushed in had all died in that twisted manner. Elder Feng's face looked rather grim. Looking at those floating gray-white ghoul figures, he instinctively made to continue forward. But at this moment, he suddenly felt something tugging at his leg. He looked down and saw a newborn infant who looked as if he had just come out of his mother's womb. He reached out his bloodied hands and was grabbing the hem of Elder Feng's trousers. That infant was covered in blood, and his eyes were gouged out, leaving behind 2 pitch-black holes. Elder Feng felt his scalp go numb. He bit his tongue and swallowed down the scream that has threatened to burst out his throat. Feeling the pain, the tugging on his trousers lessened slightly. Chapter 2251, Legacy Place 1. The infant was only a hallucination. This matrix path would dig into one's deepest fears upon this godforsaken path. Each and every person sought different remnants of their horror-spawned imaginations. The scene before their eyes seemed to transform. Some of the weaker practitioners experienced more vivid hallucinations, so much so that they could barely tell where they were now. Laughter, sobs, wails sounded out. To prevent themselves from making any noise triggered by the sudden surge of emotions, the demon child and the rest shut their eyes. Anyone who uttered even a single sound all died. The sounds of stone grinding echoed continuously in the ears of the crowd, sending those who disturbed the evil demons straight to hell. The smell of blood permeated the air, becoming increasingly intense. Everyone felt like they were submerged in a massive pool of blood. The scent of blood was the only thing they could smell in the air. Yi Qingtang listened impassively to the sounds behind her. She had seen that Mu Xing was unconscious and should not be affected by the matrix path, so she should be safe. The matrix path was long, and they traveled for quite a while. Yi Qingtang finally spoke. "We have passed the matrix path." The demon child finally opened his eyes. He turned and saw strange blue flames floating upon the dark, gloomy matrix path. "Those who die in the tomb will become a part of it," Yi Qingtang said. The souls of those who died in the Fiend Celestial's tomb would become part of the tomb forever, unable to leave. Nearly 10,000 people had stepped onto the matrix path, but only about 6,000 were left now. And this was already after Yi Qingtang had given them a warning. They knew they were not supposed to make any noise, but the moment those hallucinations appeared, those who were not mentally strong enough ended up dying. "Mighty One, thank you for your warning. Elder Feng was already drenched in cold sweat. His suspicion toward Yi Qingtang had now reduced by half. The Matrix path was irrefutably treacherous. If Yi Qingtang had not warned them not to make any noise, they would not know of the secret behind it. The moment they stepped onto it, Yi Qingtang could have found a way to have them all annihilated. But she didn't do so. It was clear that she didn't bear them any ill will. At this thought, the crowd's belief in Yi Qingtang's words about the inheritance of the Fiend Celestials will increase. Another notion also arose in their minds. If they could inherit the Fiend Celestials' will, what else would they need to be afraid of? By then, none of the other factions, or even the Temple of Paragon, would be able to do anything to them. They would fear no one. Yi Qingtang noticed the reactions of the remaining crowd. She knew that her earlier actions had gained some of their trust, and she heaved a secret sigh of relief. But Yi Qingtang had no intention of really leading them into the deepest regions of the tomb. She just wanted to have the crowd let down their guard, so that she had a chance to save Mu Ziying. Mighty One, we have to depend on you for what follows next. The people spoke in a much more respectful tone now. Yi Qingtang did not reply immediately. Depend on her? Yi Qingtang had never entered the Fiend Celestial's tomb before. She just happened to have heard the details about the Matrix path from someone in her previous life. From here on, Yi Qingtang wasn't 100% confident of moving safely within the tomb. Who knew if those rumors in her previous life would pan out as expected? Chapter 2252, Legacy Place 2. In a place like this, the less time spent here the better. Eyes scanning the crowd, Yi Qingtang finally confirmed that Mu Ziying had been safely brought over by the Rising Dragon Island men. The sight relaxed her a little. Just as Yi Qingtang was about to seize this opportunity to herd these people over to her desired location, she suddenly spied several familiar figures from the corner of her eye. Lei Yin and the rest were just teenagers, and their experience through the Matrix path had exhausted them. If they hadn't eaten the mute elixirs, they would have already all been dead meat. Just the sight of those hallucinations was enough to make them scream their lungs out. The ragtag bunch was right at the end of the group. They had witnessed every single gory mishap that had happened to those before them. Luckily, the tomb was rather dim. Otherwise, their legs would have gone all soft if they had been able to clearly see the bloody massacre of those people by the evil demons. Yi Qingtang, when did those brats follow them in? Yi Qingtang had planned to lure these people to her destination, before making an excuse to rescue Mu Ziying and then fleeing. She never expected Lei Yin and those brats to have followed them in. It looked like they must have followed the group after Mu Ziying was captured. Yi Qingtang suddenly felt very tired. It was already very difficult to escape with one Mu Ziying. Now, those few brats have all come to join the party. Her temples throbbed painfully. She desperately wished to just fling those damn brats far away. They were gutsy. Those few brats dared to dream of snatching Mu Ziying back from the Rising Dragon Island men. Yi Qingtang took a deep breath to suppress the violent impulse to beat them up. Thereafter, her mind raced as she thought of how she would have to make adjustments to her earlier plan. At this thought, Yi Qingtang led the group forward. The Fiend Celestial's tomb was very big, far more expansive than any of them expected. In her previous life, Yi Qingtang once heard someone who had personally visited the tomb say that the tomb actually took up the entire underground space beneath the whole Evil Soul Forest. It would take at least a month to walk one full round, and dangers were lurking everywhere. Even if one knew of the traps within, there was still a very high possibility of death. Yi Qingtang was not confident in continuing inward. But luckily, the place where she planned to lead the group was near the entrance. The crowd muddled through the darkness for a long time, before feeling like they had entered a strange underground palace. The huge palace hall had 12 massive doors. A different beast was carved above each door. The crowd had just stepped in when blue flames lit up on the walls of the underground palace. The blue flames brightened up this strange-looking underground palace. "Where's this place?" the crowd asked after seeing Yi Qingtang stop right in the center of the palace. "The Legacy Place," Yi Qingtang replied. Legacy Place? The crowd was taken aback. Was the black-robed person telling the truth? Did the Fiend Celestial really need to find a person to inherit his will? The various factions were all tempted by the desire to try. By this point, inheriting the Fiend Celestials will have become even more important than any hidden treasure. Yi Qingtang was in no hurry to speak, and the various factions continued to daydream. Elder Feng and the rest examined the inside of this underground palace. When they approached those 12 doors, they could clearly feel intense demonic energies radiating from the gaps between the doors and walls. Elder Feng's face shifted slightly, and he asked the demon child in a low voice, "What do you think?" Chapter 2253, Legacy Place 3. The demon child narrowed his eyes. The demon energies here are very intense. I wonder what kind of power exists behind those doors. Don't tell me the black-robed person is speaking the truth. Could it be that the Fiend Celestial's will is behind those doors? Elder Feng's eyes flashed. I cannot be sure. The demon child frowned. No one had ever really entered the Fiend Celestial's tomb before. To them, this was all unprecedented. Even now, they still had doubts about Yi Qingtang's real identity, so of course they remained suspicious of her words. The demon child looked toward Yi Qingtang, but she just stood there in silence in the middle of the underground palace. So the demon child asked, "Mighty One, are we to enter these doors?" Yi Qingtang put on a profound manner. Yes and no. The demon child narrowed his eyes. Yi Qingtang said, "I do not know who is the Fiend Celestial's chosen successor. I only know that these doors are not for just anyone to enter. It was prepared only for the chosen one." Everyone was shocked by Yi Qingtang's words. If she had made them enter those doors immediately, they would probably be suspicious. But now, she didn't want them to enter? Mighty One, I'm a bit confused by your words. Since you are the guide and have led us to this place, why aren't you letting us enter those doors? Elder Feng asked. Yi Qingtang replied, I'm the guide only for the chosen one, not for all of you. Everyone's expression changed. Oh, I wonder how you will determine who the chosen one is? The demon child asked. Yi Qingtang remained silent, as if she didn't know. Everyone knew that if not for the Temple of Paragon's news, there would not be such a huge number of people gathering here. If Yi Qingtang's words were true, it was highly likely that the first person to step into the Fiend Celestial's tomb was the chosen one. Yi Qingtang's obstruction and silence was inciting their desire for the Fiend Celestial's will. Almost unconsciously, their suspicions lessened. Mighty One, if you cannot determine who it is, why don't we let the Fiend Celestials will personally choose the fated one? Wouldn't that be more accurate? Sure, Shangfei suddenly spoke up. Ow! Yi Qingtang asked. Mighty One, you said earlier that the Fiend Celestial himself would choose the fated one. I think that for the time being, you're unable to determine which of us is the chosen one. Why don't you allow us to enter these doors, and the Fiend Celestial will naturally know who is the destined one? There's no need for you to vex over this issue then. Sure, Shangfei explained. Yi Qingtang remained silent, but the crowd became thoughtful at Sure Shangfei's words. No one knew how the Fiend Celestials would choose his successor. Since the fated one was amongst them, it was only natural they all hoped that they would be the lucky one. Obtaining the Fiend Celestial's will was the equivalent of rising to the very top of the second domain. This level of power was fatally alluring to anyone. No! Yi Qingtang immediately objected, but the more she objected, the more the people desired it. There is logic to division, Head Shure's words. Since you cannot determine who the fated one is, are we to stand here forever? Even the chosen one himself doesn't know if he is the one. In standing here, we are merely wasting time. Instead of having you vex over this, since it's the Fiend Celestial's will, he will naturally choose the correct person. Even if a large number of people enter, it wouldn't have any effect on the Fiend Celestial's will, right? Elder Feng spoke up. Chapter 2254, Legacy Place 4. As the crowd had no idea how to open those doors, Naturally, they were forced to get Yi Qingtang's assent. Even then, Yi Qingtang refused to answer, and if anything, her resolute silence whetted everyone's appetite. Their earlier suspicion toward Yi Qingtang had now completely dispelled. Yi Qingtang was well aware of the principle of reverse psychology. If she had immediately asked them to enter those doors, they would be afraid to even put half a foot inside. But if she refused to let them in, they would become even more convinced of her words. It was human nature for a person to think they were very smart. If she could make appropriate use of this kind of thinking, she would be able to achieve her result. Never mind then, Yi Qingtang said in a low voice, but I must warn you that after you all enter the doors, the moment the successor is chosen, the rest of you must immediately come out. Under no circumstances are you to disturb the passing on of the will. Everyone grew curious at Yi Qingtang's words. Disturb? Mighty One, what do you mean by that? Someone asked. Yi Qingtang put on a stern manner. The moment the Fiend Celestial begins the inheritance process, it will not stop. If anyone disturbs it, the inheritance will go into disarray. None of you will be able to bear the consequences if the chosen one is unable to take on all of the Fiend Celestial's will. It was a harsh warning by Yi Qingtang, but the crowd didn't feel that way after hearing her words. If anything, the minds of Elder Feng and the rest immediately raced 1,000,000 miles a minute. Once the inheritance process started, it could not be stopped, and according to this black-robed person, the inheritance of the will would go into disarray if the process was disturbed. Everyone at present were intelligent beings. Their minds raced with all sorts of thoughts and ideas. Did this mean they could obtain the Fiend Celestial's will themselves if they killed the Destined One? Within just a few seconds, all the factions had this same idea. The formerly harmonious and peaceful atmosphere suddenly turned tense and quietly malicious. It was apparent that the Destined One was amongst them. As long as they could all enter, the inheritance process would begin. By then, as long as they kill off the other factions, they would be able to obtain the Fiend Celestial's legacy. But they had to confirm the black-robed person's words first. The crowd didn't reveal their ambitions. Only by entering the door would they be able to confirm if Yi Qingtang was speaking the truth. Yi Qingtang quietly observed the crowd's reaction before she continued. Are you ready? Yes, Mighty One. Yi Qingtang nodded and walked to the first door. Secretly, she had the Night Soul Beast activate the opening mechanism. The massive door suddenly opened and an intense demon energy surged out. It was an illusory space, and inside floated the Fiend Celestial's mind. Elder Feng felt his heart shudder at the sight. He glanced at Yi Qingtang to make sure she had no objections to them stepping forward. Even so, he was still careful to let those around him enter first. The other factions each dispatched one person to enter first. After those men entered and walked for some distance, they suddenly stopped. Is this the voice of the Fiend Celestial? Legacy, Destined One. One of the men suddenly smiled. He muttered to himself, and those keywords were overheard by everyone. The black-robed person was speaking the truth. This was really the legacy place. The Fiend Celestials will, in a flash, the various factions charged toward the door. No one wanted to miss this golden opportunity. Chapter 2255. Escape. 1. Yi Qingtang looked on with cold eyes as the crowd surged into the door. She secretly glanced to the side. As expected, lured by the prospect of obtaining the legacy, the Rising Dragon Island men left the unconscious Mu Xing alone outside the door. None of the major factions would let go of this great chance to obtain the Fiend Celestial's will. They would not leave any one of their men outside the door, as this would only decrease their chances of winning. Moreover, Mu Xing was already unconscious. Whatever reward the Rising Dragon Island would gain from her kidnapping would not be as valuable as the Fiend Celestial's will. Lei Yin and the others also didn't enter the door. They had come to rescue Mu Xing, and now that everyone had entered the door, they immediately knew this was their chance. But they saw that the black-robed Yi Qingtang was standing outside the door with the night soul beast. They hesitated, but believed that she would not bother with them. So they reached out to grab Mu Ziying. All the while, Qin Feng kept his eye on Yi Qingtang as they did so, deeply afraid that this mysterious black-robed person would move against them. Yi Qingtang heaved a secret sigh of relief on seeing those brats carrying Mu Ziying away. But now, she was focusing her attention on what was happening behind that door. After the various factions rushed in, they behaved like demons, madly searching for something in that illusory space. The door suddenly closed up. With a loud bang, everyone was now trapped inside. In the next second, Yi Qingtang turned and said to the vigilant Qin Feng and gang, "Leave." Qin Feng and the rest were taken aback. After confirming that she was talking to them, they were filled with suspicion. They stared vigilantly at Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang was speechless, but now was not the time to get into a discussion. She could already hear the sounds of fighting from behind that door. Inheriting the Fiend Celestial's will. It was all just bullshit dreamed up by Yi Qingtang to deceive those people. In her previous life, Yi Qingtang had heard many stories about the Fiend Celestial's tomb and knew that several illusory doors existed not far from the entrance. These doors could conjure what you most desired. Since Yi Qingtang appeared, she had been quietly selling the idea of the Fiend Celestial's will to those factions. By the time they entered the tomb, passed the matrix path, and arrived at the illusory doors, the desire that Yi Qingtang had implanted in everyone's subconscious was now enough to become an illusion. As long as they stepped beyond this door, their most desired thing would appear. And at this moment, the one thing which all those people most desired was the Fiend Celestial's will, which Yi Qingtang had been quietly guiding their subconscious toward. This was also why Yi Qingtang dared to hoodwink these major factions. But the illusion would not last for long. After the various factions started fighting, their mindsets would start to change, and the illusions would also evolve. With their sharp eyes, it wouldn't take long for them to realize that something was off. Yi Qingtang had to quickly get Mu Ziying away before they realized this. Lei Yin and the rest were clearly distrustful of the black-robed person. They instinctively shielded Mu Ziying and took up a protective stance. "Mighty One, we have no intention of obtaining the Fiend Celestial's will. We came into the tomb by accident. Mighty One, please," Yinshin spoke politely. After all, they did not wish to engage this black-robed person who could control a night soul beast. Chapter 2256. Escape to Yi Qingtang. There was not much time left. The illusory door was not as solid as the one at the entrance. If the major factions managed to break their way out, it would be a one-way road to hell for them. Yi Qingtang shed her disguise and took off her black robe. The nervous teenagers were completely dumbstruck after Yi Qingtang revealed herself. "Oh, boss?" Lei Yin widened his eyes in disbelief. Looking at that familiar face, he didn't dare to believe his own eyes. "I asked you to stay put. Why are you so disobedient?" Yi Qingtang scolded. That familiar voice, that familiar face, that familiar manner. All the teenagers were stunned. "Is it really boss? Boss, when did you become the protector of the Fiend Celestial's tomb?" Nangong Lai asked in astonishment. Yin Shun was the most shocked. He had already suspected that Yi Qing was hiding his true identity, but now... "What protector? It's just to trick those fools," Yi Qing said. Those fools, the corners of the teenagers' lips twitched when they thought about those powerful practitioners behind the door. "We have no time to waste. Follow me now. If they break through that door, we will all die here," Yi Qing stated as she led Lei Yin and the rest to the middle door. "Boss, isn't the entrance behind us?" Jing Zhe asked. Yi Qing explained as he walked. "That's the entrance. You can enter, but you cannot exit. Just follow me. Remember, follow me closely. One could only enter and not exit via the matrix path. Otherwise, any bit of noise would trigger an attack by the evil demon statues." Although Yi Qingtang had heard many stories about the Fiend Celestial's tomb in her previous life, she was not 100% sure if those stories were entirely accurate. If not for the sake of rescuing Mu Ziying, she would never step into such a dangerous place. Lei Yin and the rest didn't dare to spend any more time talking. With Mu Ziying in their arms, they followed close behind. But as they gazed at Yi Qing's back profile, the faces of the teenagers became increasingly curious. Boss, why does he know so much about the Fiend Celestial's tomb? If he hadn't revealed himself, I would never have thought that the black-robed person was him. The more Lei Yin thought about it, the more amazed he became. When the black-robed person first appeared, he was so dominant and powerful. Even the major factions were all subdued by him. Who could have known that it was their teacher who was underneath those black robes? I'm even more curious as to whether that thing beside Boss is really the Night's Soul Beast. Nangong mused with a perplexed expression. Yi Qingtang didn't have the time to explain herself now. She just searched her memories for everything related to the Fiend Celestial's tomb, so that they could avoid any hidden traps. Soon after Yi Qingtang and her group left, the major factions behind that illusory door saw that their surroundings had started to morph as they fought each other. The various factions had started fighting to get the Fiend Celestial's will. Under the influence of pain and the smell of blood, they started to become more clear-headed. Stop! The demon child hollered. The power of a divine, Lord 8th Heaven-level practitioner swept across the place. Everyone stopped. You bunch of fools. We have been duped. Where's the Fiend Celestial's will? The demon child snapped in a cold voice. Chapter 2257. Escape 3. Everyone was stunned by his words. In the next moment, they reassessed their surroundings. Although the scene remained the same, the earlier Fiend Celestial energy had completely disappeared. This was all an illusion. There is no Fiend Celestial's will. There's something wrong with that black-robed person. The demon child narrowed his eyes. As the most powerful, he was the first to realize something was wrong. Even so, he had also been duped. On the other side, Yi Qingtang led the teenagers through the darkness. Suddenly, a faint glow appeared before them. What's that? Lei Yin asked timidly. Yi Qingtang didn't reply, but only stepped forward. In the murky darkness, a glowing river had appeared before them. Black figures danced upon the surface of the water. Yi Qingtang had to lean closer to see clearly. Those black figures were monsters. The monsters had bat-like wings, but their bodies were similar to those evil demon statues on the Matrix path, just much smaller. Those flying evil demons held all sorts of weapons, their eyes radiating with a pale blue light. Moments later, Lei Yin and the others caught up and saw those flying evil demons. Their faces instantly turned grim. Suddenly, an alluring, singing voice drifted over. The song was melodious and filled with a woman's charm. It sounded like it was coming from afar, but gradually approaching. Who is singing? Qin Feng frowned. Yi Qingtang looked toward the surface of the water. Lit by the light, several blurry figures slowly appeared beneath the surface of the water. Nervous, Lei Yin and the rest took a step backward, keeping their eyes fixed upon the water. The sound of water accompanied the singing. The song seemed to possess a strange power. It felt like it could dispel all fears. As the singing continued, the formerly frightened teenagers suddenly took a step toward the water. Amidst the darkness, light shone out of the water, as if a star had dropped into the water. A beautiful figure had quietly swum to the side of the river. She had a gorgeous face with exquisite, flawless features, but faint scales grew on the sides of her cheeks. The beautiful woman popped her head out of the water, her lustrous long hair cascading down onto her pristine shoulders. Those deep blue eyes sparkled as that melodious voice came out from between her slightly parted red lips. It was like the sound of nature itself. Qin Feng was bewitched. There were plenty of beautiful women in the world, and Qin Feng had always felt that he would never be bewitched by a woman's looks. But now, all he could see was this gorgeous lady. Somehow, he was now bent over, and the woman in the water reached out one slender, fair arm, gently caressing Qin Feng's cheek. She seemed to be smiling, with her eyes as intoxicating as the finest wines. Qin Feng. Yi Qingtang's voice suddenly rang out beside his ear. Shocked, Qin Feng realized that he was now kneeling by the river, and the woman's arms were looped around his neck. Qin Feng was just one arm's length away from falling into the water. Before Qin Feng realized what was happening, Yi Qingtang suddenly reached out to drag him away. Just as she did so, she felt a powerful force, and the beautiful woman's face twisted. Chapter 2258. Escape 4. The woman watched as her prey was being dragged away, and that beautiful face instantly morphed into a heinous and demonic expression. Roar! She opened her jaws wide, revealing sharp teeth. Springing out of the water, it instantly exposed her lower body to Qin Feng. It was a rotting fishtail. Half the scales had already rotted away and fused with the flesh. Qin Feng instantly paled. After Yi Qingtang tossed him to the side, she shot a black flame out from her hand, driving the mermaid monster back into the water. He fell to the floor in a daze. At this moment, he finally noticed that Lei Yin and the rest had also somehow walked to the edge of the river. And in the water in front of each of them was an exceptionally beautiful woman. Yi Qingtang narrowed her eyes. The black flame in her hand morphed into a fiery dragon, shooting straight toward those monsters. The high heat from the flames broke off the melodious, singing voices of those beautiful women. Ear-piercing shrieks echoed through the air as their lovely faces morphed into heinous expressions. With a splash, they plopped back into the water. Lei Yin and the rest were still in a daze as Yi Qingtang dragged them all back. Yi Qingtang lit a wall of fire around the edge of the water using her black flame. Endless monstrous shrieks could be heard from behind that wall. What was that? Jingze collapsed to the floor, still in a daze. He had no idea what just happened. He just remembered seeing a beautiful face and that alluring singing voice. Are those mermaids? Yinshin asked. He had heard legends of half-human, half-fish creatures amongst the Sea clan. But these mermaids appeared to be different from the legends. Yes and no. They used to be mermaids, but now they're just monsters which have been transformed by the demon energy of the Fiend Celestial. Yi Qingtang replied coldly. These mermaids had already died, but because of the Fiend Celestial's lingering energy, as well as the power of this tomb, they were transformed into undead monsters. Their voices were full of allure, and anyone who heard them would be instantly seduced, slowly being pulled into the river to be forever trapped in the watery depths. They would then become part of the tomb. Boss, should we take a detour then? These things are too horrifying. Leian just felt like crying. What kind of godforsaken place was this? There's no other route. We have to go through this river, Yi Qingtang said. But Yi Qingtang didn't say anything more. Taking out a rope, she tied them all together in a line. Close off your 5 senses and follow me into the water. I will take you across the river. To leave this tomb, they would have to exit from the opening on the other side. There was no way they could avoid this river. Boss, aren't you worried about being bewitched by those monsters? Who do you think I am? Lei Yin was stunned. Yi Qingtang smiled. I am your boss. Of course I will try my best to bring you all out of here safe and sound. The teenagers were slightly taken aback by Yi Qing's words. Since stepping into this tomb, they had been filled with fear and apprehension at everything they had witnessed. But Yi Qing's words had immediately wiped away the unease in their hearts. It was as though as long as he was around, all problems could be resolved. After tying everyone properly, Yi Qingtang gave Mu Xing an elixir. Suddenly, she heard a series of faint voices, and her face immediately darkened. Chapter 2259. Escape 5. Things were not looking good. The major factions had probably already discovered something was wrong and were trying to leave the illusory space. It would not take long before they came chasing after them. She had to take them across the river as soon as possible. Close off your senses, Yi Qingtang commanded. Dispelling the flaming wall, she leaped forward, diving straight into the dark river water. Lei Yin and the rest were likewise pulled into the water. The night soul beast was still in a daze by the side when it was dragged into the water by Yi Qingtang. The night soul beast, but since it had already signed a contract with Yi Qingtang, as much as it wanted to, it couldn't just kick Yi Qingtang aside now and escape on its own. The chilly water enveloped them. Lei Yin and the rest had already shut their senses, but allowed their bodies to maintain a swimming mode. In the darkness of the water, they could not see or hear anything. Only the rope tied at their waists guided them forward. Yi Qingtang was right at the front. She was the only one who could see. Right after diving into the water, countless undead mermaids appeared from the depths of the river. They looked like a swarm of fish swimming toward them. Those undead mermaids opened their jaws wide, charging madly at the group and surrounding them. Lei Yin and the rest had shut their senses and didn't know what was happening. The mermaids' singing voices echoed through the water. If one closed his eyes and just listened, it was intoxicating. But the sight of those heinous faces was spine-chilling. Yi Qingtang swam quickly, continuously shooting out black flames from her hands to break through the mermaids blocking their way. Thankfully, those mermaids were not very powerful. Their most terrifying trait was their ability to seduce. They could make someone drown without him even realizing it. Then his body would decay and become their food. Soon after, his soul would forever be trapped in this tomb. But as long as one could fend against the allure of those undead mermaids, they weren't that terrifying. Yi Qingtang had the heart of the heavenly Tao and the deity ocean inside her body. This gave her an exceptionally strong mental power, and so these undead mermaids did not affect her. Even so, just the sight of being surrounded by so many undead mermaids was enough to make one's heart shudder. It was a very long river, and who knew how long it would take before they reached the end. Countless undead mermaids swam continuously around them, trying to lure these people into the watery depths. Yi Qingtang continued to make her way forward. Luckily, the night soul beast was around, and those mermaids did not dare to attack them directly. As the guardian beast of the evil soil forest, the night soul beast was born from the fiend celestial's power. To these undead mermaids, who were not that powerful, the night soul beast had a certain subduing effect. This was also why Yi Qingtang dared to bring everyone into the water. Without the night soul beast, those mermaids would probably have already pounced on them and devoured them down to the bone. Yi Qingtang suddenly discovered a beam of light in the water. The light originated from somewhere in the depths of the river. Yi Qingtang's eyes lit up. In her previous life, people who visited the tomb said that this river was boundless. One would never be able to swim from end to end. So there was only one way to leave this boundless river, and it was in the depths of the river. Yi Qingtang immediately dragged Lei Yin and the rest toward that beam of light in the depths. The immense water pressure made Yi Qingtang feel like her internal organs were being squeezed together. If she didn't use her spirit energy to protect her body, this tremendous pressure was enough to squash a human into paste. Chapter 2260, Treasure Trove 1. There was a massive tunnel where the glowing light seemed to emanate from. Yi Qingtang could see it now. Sparking precious jewels were embedded on the two sides of the tunnel. The river water appeared to be sealed off from the tunnel, unable to seep in at all. On and on, Yi Qingtang surged forward as she led Lei Yin and the others straight into the tunnel. Drenched from swimming in the river, all the water dripping off their bodies immediately evaporated once they entered the tunnel. It was only then that Yi Qingtang woke them up. The teenagers realized that they had somehow arrived at a tunnel. Turning around, they saw countless undead mermaids swimming in the water behind them. "Boss, you really managed to bring us all here." Nangong Lai stared at Yi Qing in amazement. "Let's take a look at Xing first," Yi Qing said. Yin Shun put down the unconscious Mu Xing. Although she was covered in bruises, none of them appeared to be critical. However, her face was rather pale. Yi Qingtang fed her an elixir, and in the blink of an eye, Mu Xing woke up. Right before she opened her eyes, her brows wrinkled instinctively. But after lifting her lids and seeing those familiar faces before her, Mu Xing was completely dumbstruck. Boss! Boss! Hadn't she been captured by those rising dragon island men? What had happened, surprised? Ha! Little senior sister, you didn't expect this, right? We all came to save you. Lei Yin grinned. Still in a daze, Mu Xing noticed Yi Qing and averted her gaze slightly. Lei Yin and Nangong Lai told her all about how they merged into the crowd, how Yi Qing deceived all the major factions, and so they had managed to save her. Hearing all that with a trembling heart, Mu Xing desperately wished to bury her head in her chest. I have been a burden to everyone. As young as Mu Xing was, even she knew that it would not be that easy to leave this fiend celestial's tomb. Yi Qing and the others had taken the risk to come into this dangerous place, all because of her. A warm hand suddenly landed on top of Mu Xing's head. As Mu Xing lifted her head, she looked into Yi Qing's smiling eyes. Can you walk? Yi Qing asked. Mu Xing was taken aback. She nodded in bewilderment. We cannot linger here. If you are tired, have him carry you. Yi Qing spoke in a mild voice. The rising Dragon Island matter was an accident. She would not blame anyone for this kind of accident. Mu Xing nodded silently before following Yi Qing. Boss, this tunnel looks much brighter than the other areas of the tomb. Does this mean we can leave soon? Lei Yin asked eagerly. He really didn't wish to stay here a second longer. Who knew how many more terrifying things existed here? Yi Qing didn't reply. In her previous life, there was a lot of information about the Fiend Celestial's tomb, but also a lot of different versions. Someone once said that there was more than one tunnel in the depths of the boundless river. Even Yi Qing could not be sure where they were now. Seeing that Yi Qing had remained silent, the others also obediently kept quiet. They remembered clearly what happened at the Matrix Path earlier. Who knew what would happen in this tomb? The glowing tunnel seemed to have no end. Having gotten to this point, Yi Qing had no choice but to continue leading the group forward. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.